They said he was sent from heaven, the man with the gentle smile, the one who healed the sick and prayed for the poor. In Umueke, his name was whispered with reverence, Dr. Moses, a man of God. But heaven had nothing to do with him. Behind the stethoscope and holy words lived a predator who wore mercy like a mask. For years, he fed on the trust of the innocent, turning medicine into poison, kindness into death. And the village that worshipped him never saw the monster growing in their midst, not until the day he met his match, the woman who came in silence, smiling like everyone else, but carrying the eyes of justice. This is a story of faith betrayed, love corrupted, and evil disguised as good. The story they still whisper in Umueke, the evil doctor. Welcome, my dear viewers, to African Tales by Golden, where true African stories meet mystery, emotion, and the power of truth. The air in Lagos was heavy that morning. Heat, noise, and the faint chemical scent of disinfectant drifting through the clinic hallways. He stood behind a small counter, his white coat slightly yellowed at the collar, a permanent smile stretched across his face. To patients, he was just the assistant, polite, efficient, invisible. When the main doctor scribbled prescriptions in a hurry, he was the one who filled them. Go downstairs, the doctor would say. See Moses, he will get you your drugs. And Moses did. Except he had learned something valuable about desperation. He learned that when people are in pain, they don't ask questions. So he began to switch the labels. A cheaper drug sold for triple the price. A vital antibiotic replaced with chalky white tablets from his secret drawer. Each sale added to his quiet fortune. And with each deception, his smile grew steadier, almost rehearsed. For months, his pockets grew fat, and his conscience sting, until the day the doctor found out. It was late, just after sunset. The waiting room was empty, the air still buzzing with the memory of patients. The doctor confronted him in the back room, his voice trembling with disbelief. Moses, how could you? These are people's lives. He brought out his phone. I'm calling the police right now. A monster like you deserves to be in jail. Moses didn't answer. His hand went to the drawer where the scalpel lay. The same drawer that once held fake pills. He whispered, I can't go back to zero, and drove the blade forward. The sound was small, a soft exhale, a short cry, then silence. He packed the doctor's cash, the stolen savings, and left the city before dawn. The road to the village was long and lonely. The bus windows were cracked, the air thick with dust and sweat. Each bump in the road felt like a heartbeat reminding him of what he had done. He wanted to go somewhere far away where he wouldn't be caught. When he arrived, the first thing he noticed was quiet, the kind of silence that Lagos could never afford. The village was called Umueke, a small settlement surrounded by thick forests and farmland. People there still trusted smiles. They greeted strangers with open hands and cautious curiosity. He met with a few locals that helped him to find a suitable apartment and open his clinic as well. Within a week, Moses had found a small house near the marketplace. Within a month, a sign appeared in front of it. Dr. Moses Clinic, affordable care for all. He wore a borrowed stethoscope and the confidence of a man reborn. He was never a doctor. He was just a mere assistant working in a clinic. The villagers came in droves, aching mothers, coughing farmers, wounded children. He treated them all with the gentleness of a savior. When he spoke, he said things like, I left the big hospitals in Lagos because I couldn't stand the greed. Here, I only want to serve you all. They believed him. How could they not? He helped the sick, prayed for the dying, and took no Sundays off. Women whispered blessings when he passed. Men offered him food. The chief himself sent kola nuts as gifts of gratitude. But behind that smile, the same polite, efficient, invisible smile, something watched. Something that had grown stronger since Lagos. The fake doctor had found a new home, and the village unknowingly had opened its doors to the beginning of a nightmare. The rain had fallen all night in Umueke. By morning, the air smelled of wet soil and ripened mangoes. Dr. Moses stood by his clinic window, watching villagers hurry to the market. He had been in the village for 3 months now, and business was booming. It was then that Brenda walked in, like sunlight through smoke. She was beautiful in a way that turned silence into a language. Light-skinned, tall, her head tied in bright Ankara, but her eyes carried something darker, pain that lived too long. She held her husband's hand, Mr. Thomas, one of the richest men in Umueke, a man whose money could buy everything but peace. "Doctor," she said softly, "my husband is sick. He can't sleep. He coughs at night. He sweats profusely." Mr. Thomas sat heavily in the chair, his tone proud and careless. "Just give me the right medicine, doctor. I'll pay anything." That word, anything, landed like a melody in Moses' ears. He smiled, slow and deliberate. He saw opportunity, and more than that, temptation. Brenda stood close to her husband, and for the first time in weeks, Moses felt his hands tremble, not from guilt, but from desire. He gave them medicine and charged them higher than anyone else, seeing that he was clearly a rich man, eyes lifting too often to Brenda's face. When they left, he leaned against the counter, heart racing. That night, he dreamed of her, the curve of her smile, the sadness behind it. By dawn, he had made a decision. Brenda began to visit more often. At first, she came for medicine, then for conversation, then for comfort. Each time, Moses played the perfect listener, soft-spoken, kind, and falsely holy. "You deserve peace, Brenda," he would whisper. "You deserve a man who sees you." She broke easily. 7 years of humiliation had emptied her heart of caution. She told him everything. How her husband mocked her for being barren, how he threw plates, how she sometimes prayed for the earth to swallow her whole. Moses nodded, eyes gleaming with understanding. But behind that pity lay calculation. He leaned forward one evening, his voice low and poisonous. "If he dies, your suffering dies with him." Brenda gasped, but then he added softly, "We could start again, somewhere new. You and I. You never have to cry again." Tears spilled from her eyes, not of fear, but hope. And that was how evil entered her heart, disguised as love. Moses prepared the poison himself, sealing it inside a small white tablet. He gave her precise instructions. "Give him this tonight. Mix it with juice. Before you serve him, record yourself crying. Say you want to end your life. Say your husband has made your life miserable. Leave the phone. Leave the phone by the window so everyone can see the video later." Brenda hesitated, but love had already turned her blind. She obeyed. That night, she sat her husband dinner, yam porridge, fried fish, and a glass of orange juice. He mocked her as usual, laughed after eating, and went to bed. By dawn, his laughter had turned into silence. Brenda packed everything the doctor told her to: bags of money, gold jewelry, and her clothes. She hid the valuables where Moses had instructed and left quietly towards the bus stop, believing her new life awaited. Moses waited in the shadows. When she was gone, he crept to the hiding place, retrieved the money and jewels, and smiled so wide it almost hurt. He called her to meet him later by the edge of the forest. When Brenda arrived, her face glowed with excitement. "It's done," she whispered, trembling. "Now we can live and start afresh happily." She ran into his arms. He held her tight, and then, with one swift motion, he plunged the knife into her back. She looked at him, eyes wide, mouth open in disbelief. He whispered against her ear, "You were never part of the plan, my love. Now sleep and say hi to your husband for me." The forest swallowed her scream. The next morning, the village was in chaos. Mr. Thomas had been found dead in his bed. Hours later, villagers discovered a phone on the windowsill. A video of Brenda crying, confessing she could no longer bear her husband's cruelty. The story wrote itself. A wicked woman, a guilty conscience, a final act of suicide. The case was closed, and Dr. Moses slept that night with a smile on his face and blood under his nails. The pattern hardened. Moses retalked girls with promises of marriage, a big city life and safety. He made them sign over lands, shops, savings, everything. For our future, he'd say, smiling. Once the papers and cash were in his hands, he planned clean exits, a staged suicide note, a vanished spot at night, a body that would never be found. Before the first year ended, over 20 women were gone, and their properties quietly changed hands. By the second and third year, the list kept piling up. Anyone who asked too many questions, an uncle, a cousin, a neighbor, met a sudden end, a stray fall, a closed well, a roadside accident. Moses removed obstacles with the same calm he used to wrap bandages. Umueke refused to see it. The villagers called him a man of God. They greeted him with kola nuts and praise names, said heaven had sent him to help the poor. No one dared point a finger. In their eyes, the doctor could do no wrong. The killings drew attention beyond the village. Files thickened. Phone calls climbed the chain of command. Finally, the higher authorities intervened. They sent Eve Johnson. Eve was a city detective with a reputation that spoke before she did. She had never lost a case, a divorcee, a mother to a young daughter. She worked with the cold patience of someone who believed justice should arrive, even if it had to crawl. She entered Umueke quietly. Interviews, timelines, hospital logs, burial records, missing person complaints that had been waved away. Every part the local teams had worked, she worked again, straighter, slower, more exact. Her first contact with Moses was ordinary. She came to the clinic to buy medicine for her child and met the man everyone worshipped. He was gentle, attentive, a picture of charity. She noted his composure, the way villagers defended him without being asked. She heard the chorus, "The doctor is a good man. The doctor prays. The doctor helps." Moses recognized her type, the careful ones. He panicked inwardly when he learned who she was, but he didn't show it. Instead, he upped his game. He appeared helpful, soft-spoken, endlessly available. He offered discounts, called to ask after her daughter, stood in doorways with a sympathetic tilt to his head. He spoke to the loneliness between long shifts and empty nights. Eve held firm at first. She knew proximity can block judgment, and she guarded her edges, but Moses was persistent, calculated, and patient. Gradually, a private softness formed in the gaps of her investigation. Small confidences, brief smiles, a belief that the beloved doctor couldn't be the monster she was hunting. When he sensed that opening, he pushed. He coerced her to drop the case, to let the village heal, to believe the deaths were tragedies without a pattern. She refused. Her record wasn't built on surrender. Moses panicked. He felt the danger. When Eve told him of her plans and the evidence she has to finally catch the culprit, his breath hitched for the first time in years. Panic and calculation moved through him like two hands. He doubled down on seduction. He glued himself to her word so he could watch the shape of her investigations. He was careful. He was patient. He was cruelly composed. And then the village, which had worshipped and protected him, grew quiet with fear. Nights hummed with the same low worry the commissioner felt on the phone. The police presence increased. Everyone was looking for answers. Eve made a mistake no skilled detective should make. She let her guard down for a man she wanted. She told him about all her investigations, thinking he loved her. She allowed the human slack that comes from exhaustion and the hunger for connection. Moses used it like a scalpel, so he designed a new plan. He lured Eve carefully. No noise, no witnesses. She believed she could walk the line between professional and personal. When she came, believing she was following one last lead, Moses closed his trap with the same cold neatness he used on the others. If Johnson, the officer who had never lost a case, did not return, Moses felt untouchable. If a city detective could be swallowed by Umueke's silence, who could threaten him? The villagers trembled. The commissioner was furious. The high authorities demanded answers. Patrols increased. Meetings stretched into the night. All hands were on deck. And yet, in the center of the village, the clinic lamp still burned. The man they called a savior still wore his white coat. The floorboards under his bed still hid deeds, keys and cash. And the list of names, women and a handful of men, kept growing. One careful signature and one vanishing at a time. The killings in Umueke had become too many. Every few months, another woman disappeared, and no one could explain why. The villagers whispered that the gods were angry, but the high authorities knew something darker was happening. They sent an undercover officer, one of their best, a woman who had cracked impossible cases, to live quietly among the villagers and find the truth. Her real name was Inspector Marachi, but in Umueke, she was simply Miss Adabelo, a widow from Lagos who said she came to buy land and rest from city life. No one in the village, not even the local police, knew who she truly was. Her job was to live like one of them, listen like one of them, and find out who the murderer was without revealing her true identity. She arrived with modest luggage, a careful smile, and nothing that suggested she carried a badge. The point was simple: watch, listen, leave the village for a while, and let the patterns appear. The higher-ups had a growing stack of cold reports and a dead detective in the file, but no smoking gun. Ada's first rule was silence. Ada settled into the village slowly, like a breeze that didn't draw attention. She rented a small apartment, swept her veranda each morning, bought fish from the market, asking gentle questions at the well. She listened more than she spoke and greeted everyone with a warm smile. In a few weeks, she became part of Umueke, the quiet woman who minded her business. But behind that gentle face was a sharp mind. She watched everything, every whisper, every rumor, every familiar pattern. The one name she kept hearing was Dr. Moses, the man of God, the healer, the savior. The villagers adored him. They said he prayed for the sick and charged almost nothing. They called him the doctor heaven sent. Yet, as Ada studied the old reports of missing women, she noticed something chilling. Every single one of them had visited Dr. Moses' clinic before they vanished. Title deeds changing hands soon after a woman's disappearance. Still, she didn't rush to judgment. Moses was smart, careful, composed, and beloved. If she accused him without proof, the whole village would turn against her. So she waited, watched, and planned. One bright morning, Ada went to the clinic, pretending to feel weak. Dr. Moses smiled warmly the moment he saw her. His voice was calm, kind, almost too kind. He gave her medicine and assured her that she would be fine, but his eyes stayed on her longer than necessary. That was his weakness, beautiful women. The next day, he sent a boy from the market with oranges for her. The next week, he came himself, just to check how you're doing. Soon, he began visiting her often, talking about fate, love, and destiny. A woman like you shouldn't be alone, Ada, he said softly. You deserve a better life. You deserve someone who truly cares. Ada pretended to be shy and grateful, letting him believe his charm was working. But every visit, she memorized details: where he looked, how he spoke, what he hid behind that soft smile. While Moses thought he was drawing Ada closer, she was quietly building her case. She visited the local land registry and discovered that several missing women had transferred their land to new trustees. And each time, Dr. Moses' signature appeared somewhere as witness or buyer. She sent small samples of medicines he gave her to the city lab. The results showed traces of sedatives and chemicals that could slowly kill. Everything was falling into place, but she still needed proof, something undeniable. One afternoon, Ada went to the clinic with a calm smile and said, "Doctor, I have been thinking. I inherited some land and money from my late husband, but I'm afraid someone might cheat me. Could you help me keep them safe?" Moses' eyes lit up. That was the kind of talk that opened doors for him. "Of course, Ada, you can trust me," he said warmly. "Bring the papers and money tonight. I'll take care of everything personally." He told her to meet him at night near the old palm grove, quiet, hidden, and perfect for what he had planned. Ada agreed. That night, she carried a small bag that looked full of money and documents unknown to Moses. She had already placed a small recording device inside her scarf, and plainclothes officers from the city were hiding in the shadows. The moonlight painted the grove silver. Moses stood waiting, a faint smile on his lips, his stethoscope gleaming in the dark. When Ada approached, he offered her a drink from a flask, pretending to toast to their future. She pretended to sip, but poured it into the sand when he turned away. Then she asked softly, "Doctor, are you sure I can trust you with my life?" He smiled confidently. "After tonight, you'll never have to worry about anything again." He smiled mischievously and brought out his knife to finish Ada off, seeing that he has already gotten everything he wanted. The hidden officer stepped out with flashlights and guns drawn. "Mr. Moses, you are under arrest." For the first time, his smooth smile disappeared. He looked from Ada to the police in shock, realizing too late that the woman he thought he had fooled had been watching him all along. His house and clinic was thoroughly searched by the police, and evidences of the crimes he committed was found. Land documents, women's jewelry, and lots more. There was no escape for him. The arrest of Mr. Moses shook Umueke to its core. The next morning, the news spread like wildfire. People gathered in the marketplace, stunned, whispering in disbelief. "It's a lie," one woman cried. "Dr. Moses? Never. He treated my son," another shouted. "He prayed in church every Sunday." The chief stood speechless for a long time before saying, "We called a serpent a saint. God forgive us." Men who once respected Moses now clenched their feet in shame. Women wept openly, tearing their wrappers and holding pictures of their missing daughters. Children hid behind their mothers, whispering, "But doctor healed people." The entire village felt cursed, betrayed by the man they trusted the most. For days, the clinic stood empty, its doors shut, its walls echoing with silence. No one dared to go near it again. At the city station, Mr. Moses sat in a dark cell. His white coat was gone. His arrogance had faded. The officers questioned him for hours. At first, he denied everything, calm, confident, smiling. But as the evidence piled up, the stolen jewelry, the fake prescriptions, the missing land papers, his voice began to shake. They pressed him harder, showing him the faces of the women he had deceived. He tried to twist his words, but the lies no longer worked. Finally, he broke down. Tears and fear replaced his cold smile. He confessed to the murders, the lies, and the greed that had driven him. He signed his confession trembling, whispering, "I didn't mean to. They trusted me." But it was too late. The trial drew crowds from all over. Reporters filled the benches. Villagers came, still shocked, still praying it wasn't true. One by one, the evidence was presented. The drugs, the stolen deeds, the confession, and the recording from Ada's scarf. When Inspector Amarachi stood in the witness box and removed her scarf, the villagers gasped. They had thought she was just another young woman who came to their village. Now they realized she was the angel sent to expose their darkness. When the judge spoke, they all fell silent. For the crimes of murder, fraud, and deception, this court finds the accused, Mr. Moses Okeke, guilty on all counts. Then came the words that sealed his fate. "You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment without parole." Moses stood motionless, eyes empty. The same mouth that once prayed over patience could no longer speak. When the judgment reached Umueke, the village mourned, not for Moses, but for the years of blindness. Everywhere people said the same thing. "We trusted too much. We praised him like a god, and he destroyed us." The church bell rang for days in remembrance of the lost souls. The elders held cleansing prayers at the market square, and the chief ordered the clinic destroyed. They tore down the wooden sign that once read Dr. Moses' Clinic, affordable care for all, and burnt it behind the market. The flame rose higher, and people cried as they watched the smoke fade into the sky. From that day, the name Dr. Moses became a warning. Parents told their children, never worship a man. Only God deserves blind trust. And in quiet moments, when the wind passed through the palm grove at night, villagers would whisper, that's where the evil doctor fell. Inspector Marachi left the village quietly, without ceremony. But her story lived on. She became the light that exposed darkness. The woman who came as a stranger and delivered a whole village from the hands of death. And so, the tale of the evil doctor ended, not with medicine, not with miracles, but with truth. Thank you so much, my amazing viewers, for watching The Evil Doctor till the very end. Your support means the world to me. You are the reason African Tales by Golden keeps growing and shining every day. If you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel. Comment below and tell me what you think about the story. Share it with your friends and family. Someone out there needs to hear this message. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit the notification bell so you never miss another African story filled with mystery, emotion, and truth. Once again, thank you for watching African Tales by Golden. Until next time, stay kind, stay wise, and remember, not every smile is holy. Bye!